Yeah, here we are. I'm Candid Frank. He's Aaron William Freeland, and this is Leaf Talk, where we talk about everything Leaf sports, including the Maple Leafs. The way things are going, um, well, I guess here's we'll start with Luke Evangelista, a local kid that had a great game against the Leafs, which seems to be a common occurrence lately.
Yeah, he broke a tie at 9:18 of the third period to help Nashville beat the Leafs 5-3 on Saturday night. He came down the right side, turnstile Morgan Riley quite handily on the faceoff dot before putting a backhander over Joseph Woll. Uh, Other contributors to my ongoing misery include Eric Holla, Adam Wilsby, Steve Stamkos, and Cole Smith. UC Saros wasn't any help for my fantasy pool either. He made 19 saves, and the Predators have now won 2 of their last 3 games. Bobby McMahon had a goal and an assist for the Leafs. Nicholas Roy and John Tavares also scored. Wall had 29 saves on the night, which is not too bad, but at that point, they'd lost 4 of 5. Nicholas Wall opened the scoring at 132 of the first period with his 400th career NHL game. He tipped McMahon's pass just under the crossbar on our first shot of the game. So that's a trend that I like to see continuing as Toronto, continuing to score on the first shots. It's unfortunate that they're not really scoring after that. That seems to be the next problem. And those issues, I think, seem to continue because like playing against the Preds on Saturday was the opener of a back-to-back. The next night they played the Dallas Stars, and oof, I don't know if you watched a lot of that game, Frank, but it was kind of brutal.
Oh, I disappeared for a second.
You're back. Yep.
Here,
did you happen to catch the Did you happen to catch the game on Sunday?
I did catch the game, and in fact, it inspired me. It inspired me to listen to this music for a little while.
I can't hear nothing on my end, Frank. I just
can't hear it?
Smiling and nodding. Nope.
Well, here, let me help.
Still got nothing, just like the Leafs. The good news is this was Dallas's first home win against Toronto since January 31st, 2017,
Wow.
which was an 0-6-1 streak. Now you appear to be on mute.
Now I appear to be on mute.
There we go. Now you're back.
Oh, okay. I was playing the funeral march, man.
Oh.
I was playing the funeral march. And
I just
disappointed it didn't come through.
It's been a rather rough stretch for the Maple Leafs, to be honest with you. And
do you ever watch Steve Dangle?
I do.
Have you seen the last few episodes?
The one that he did in bed, and then the other one where he wasn't there for Hat Guy. Yeah. It's been a rough go for Steve, man.
And the one he did after the Dallas Stars game, I think it's fair to say, but he's a sincere Leaf fan, and his orations come from the heart of a Leaf fan. You're far more measured, less emotional. So I would love to reach out to Steve Dangle to come on the show and have a little conversation with him and from an unbiased position. Here's what I see, and this is something that I think is the crux of the problem in Toronto and with the Leaf fans is the layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of disappointment. And this last disappointment, and I'm interrupting Aaron's different stories he wants to do. So I apologize. So layer on top of layer on top of layer of disappointment. But this disappointment, I totally sympathize with Dangle and every other Leaf fan because it was logical, a logical thought that Leaf fans had three of the best players in the league on their team, with a fourth guy who had a long reputation of being a great player and a great leader. You fit the players in there how you wish. And there seemed to be a reality here where the Leafs in the next 3-4 years, this is the generation of the Leafs where the skunking will end, where the failure will stop for a moment. Just 1 year. That's all Leaf fans were looking. Just one. Give us one championship. Just one. And we had reason to believe it was possible. Even I, as an outsider, not a Leaf fan, Toronto fan, saw the possibility. And unfortunately, I, as a viewer of this team, and I care about Toronto as a city, and I care about Leaf fans because they're my neighbors and friends. That's all. And I saw this opportunity pissed away like a drunken sailor. They had everything going for them. All they needed to do was to construct, and this is the part that irritates me more than anything. All they had to do was fill their roster with responsible players, and whatever players they had that weren't responsible, pick one, Matthews, Marner, or Nylander. I always felt, and you know I'm not lying about this, that one of them had to go. One of them had to go. Why? Because the one that went, if done at the right time, would have returned the kind of players, young players with the kind of attitude, not borrowed players for 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, but a young player in a position that complements 3 of the 4 that remain. They never did it. I would have gotten rid of 2 if I had my way. I would have gotten rid of 2 of them. I know it would have been difficult to trade Tavares, but I would have kept Matthews only for one reason. He appeared to have the pedigree and he was able to do something that we thought was special. I may not have been right about that, but I would have let Nylander and Marner go, and I would have got the assets that those players could have given, of guys with character who give a shit about the game 60 minutes at a time. Not 22, not 11, not 3, not 1, not 2, but 60 minutes of playing hockey like they care. And they refuse to do it. And it irritates me today because, not because I knew I was right, I thought I was right, and I hate the idea that I was right. I hate the idea that I was right, that they needed to get rid of one of those guys. So now what do they do? Aaron? Do we do like Steve Dangle, lay on the floor and get in the fetal position? What do we do? Well, I think what we do is we have to figure out a way to change this team drastically, knowing full well in front of us we might have here the ability to witness a first-round pick, a decent first-round pick this year. It won't come next year, especially if Toronto uses the one this year. So they won't have one next year. They're going to have to bite the bullet, Aaron. And if this season continues, I'm not saying pull the chute this very second, but there's going to come a moment when, I hope the only thing the Leafs have on their side is if Matthews has pride, if Nylander has pride, if those guys have pride, then they're going to be in the same place Marner ended up. Disliked by the fans, rejected, and I don't know, Aaron, if they can be willing to hang around here in Toronto if on this team if that happens?
Here's the thing I think that kills me. They won the division last year, didn't they?
Yep.
They were pretty awesome.
Yep.
This year they have been spot on Bettman 500. 5-5-1 in October, 6-6-2 in November, and 4-4-2 so far in December. Right on the line. The problem that I see here, and anybody watching post-game interviews will tell you this, is there seems to be a distinct lack of accountability
Oh, big
taken
time,
by
buddy.
anybody.
We, not me. We, not I.
Yep.
Me or me.
It's not I need to do better. It's not I need to be harder on the puck in the corners. It's not I need to make better shots. It's we, which is this vague, nebulous blanket that you can cover over everything and hide blemishes and warts. The guys that you expect to step up and take responsibility for this sort of thing aren't doing it. And that doesn't cut it. They've already stripped one guy of his C and gave it to a young fellow who probably shouldn't have it. Let's be honest. Austin Matthews is playing nowhere near the way he used to. And I'm not sure if it's an accretion of injuries that they're not telling anybody about. I'm not sure if it's just that he hates Toronto now. Another update on the Stollers situation. Apparently, he and his significant other, his partner, welcomed their first child, which was another potential reason why he wasn't appearing in the lineup lately, is because of that blessed event. So,
if she was having problems with the pregnancy, the Leaf organization would relent and
yep.
Yeah. If that's
the fact that they're not, look, I don't need to know if it was a difficult pregnancy for her. I just would appreciate a little more openness on the part of the organization to let us regular fans know what's going on. Don't say this dude is out day to day or week to week and then keep pushing that week to week until it becomes month to month.
Both things can be true, though, Aaron. That's the issue here.
I get it.
True.
I get it. But just, as a fan, I would appreciate knowing a little bit more. This game of hide and seek that they're playing with the facts to the faces of the fans is really something that gets to me about this organization.
That dovetails with what the way that conversation started. It actually never changed, right? There was a common thread that went through that whole dissertation you laid out was accountability. Yep. The Leafs are not accountable when it comes to injuries, are they?
Nope.
So this is an organizational thing, and you know what? It goes further, and it's historical, really. This is interesting. You've started an interesting little conversation here, because we can also say if there's a guilt that Leaf ownership has had assumed about them, and this is it. Is everybody holding their breath? Because this is big, man. This is big, and everybody's going to go, "Yeah, we all knew that." And here it is. I'm going to say it slowly so nobody misunderstands me. The Leafs do not have to win to fill the stadium, the arena, the seats. That's something people have believed going back. Aaron, when you can remember, as far back as you can remember, is that not one of the things that people say is wrong with the Maple Leafs?
That is one of the things that people have been saying is wrong with the Leafs for sure. But here's the thing: if you look at the attendance for each and every home game, it has been consistently declining. December 6th against Montreal, when they lost in a shootout, they had 19,081. Against San Jose, when they lost 3-2, they had 18,674. Against Chicago, when they won 3-2, they had 18,568. You go back into November, 1,809, 1,804, 18,003, 18,003 on a pretty consistent basis, but that's still not a sellout. The max capacity for that place is 19,809. I don't think they've had that for a while now. The closest they might have gotten would have been their season opener when they beat Montreal 5-2, and they had 19,037 people in the fans. Still not a sellout like it used to be.
Again, I'll reframe what I said before. Isn't the accusation that the Leaf fans will put up with anything?
And it's because they're too big to fail. They're deemed too big to fail.
Well, they've lacked the. I go back 30, 40 years now, where when I was on Rogers doing my weekly show, I said Toronto should get another team. They deserve another team. And the reason I said they deserve another team, and this is old verbiage of mine. This is archival. I said this is what I believed. And my case was Toronto's got too many hockey fans and not a fair representation. A second team is deserved here. What do I base that on? Well, I see Los Angeles, they have two teams. I see New York, they have two teams. And I see Toronto as equal to them in stature, but not in representation in hockey. And the only reason that was my reporting suggests that it's because the National Hockey League doesn't want another Canadian team in Toronto, because the American team just across the border would suffer, because at least 40-50% of the fans that have season tickets in Buffalo come from the Golden Horseshoe. And it was a discriminatory behavior that the National Hockey League basically said, F Canadian fans, we're going to support our American fans, our American team. And that's what they did. Bettman refused to have another team come here, even though there was money on the table to bring a team here on multiple occasions. And if you said to somebody, there might be another team in the metro area, it could be like it was planned, Vaughan. It could be, eastern part of the city or the western part of the city, to stay away from Buffalo, to give them a bit of a break. But I firmly believe that team would, in fact, help the Leaf team have success. Here's my proof. I give proof. I don't just say shit. The Los Angeles Kings never won a championship, a Stanley Cup, until after Anaheim won their championship.
Oh, sir.
Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? I want to hear it. And the New York Rangers didn't win a Stanley Cup in 50, 60 years until the New York Islanders won a Stanley Cup. Why is that? Why is that? Because the old boys were humiliated and embarrassed by the new kids. We need a new kid in this neighborhood. That's what I'm saying.
I can't necessarily agree with you. I disagree with you on that one, Frank. I think the additional competition might make the Leafs think about being better before they
keep, not be given it.
See, that's the problem. The team is owned by one of the biggest entertainment conglomerates in North America, and all they're going to do is fire a money cannon at the NHL and make the other team disappear. It's pretty much what's going to happen.
Well, that's what happened to Quebec, thanks to Montreal.
Yeah.
The Nordique disappeared because of the Canadians and the influence the Canadians had on the league.
Yep.
I mean, it wasn't a team that was floundering. It was a team that didn't have a decent stadium. That was the excuse to boot them. But they knew, Montreal knew, and anybody who followed hockey knew that the Nordique were probably going to be one of the next teams to win a Stanley Cup with the team they had together, that they put together.
What? Based on what that very same team did a couple years later in Colorado.
1 year later, Aaron. 1 year later, the very next season, the Colorado Avalanche playing this is the fun part that Cherry liked mentioning, in the Pepsi Arena. In the Pepsi Arena. You have to be a racist to know that, or be aware of racists to understand why that's funny or ironic. Not funny, but ironic funny. Funny, ironic. Yeah, they won the Stanley Cup in the Pepsi Arena in the next year. The first year that they were, I believe that's correct. The first year they ended up in Colorado. Again, that speaks to the BS that Canadian hockey fans have to put up with. And we're the capital of Canada when it comes to sports and sports entertainment. So why shouldn't we be at the leading edge of being screwed over by the National Hockey League?
Yeah, and even despite the control room being in Toronto, we still get shafted on a regular basis. So
well, last night they got a good call on a marginal it was marginal, right? It was as marginal as marginal can be. It was like maybe a half inch, maybe a quarter inch, a very tiny sliver of white beside the blue or behind the skate or whatever.
But, even most players will know when they're offside too. You just look at his reaction when he crossed over the blue line. He knew.
Yeah, well, they assume it's possible. Okay, so now that we've established one more time, and we did it earlier this year, we usually wait till the playoffs to talk about how the Leafs get screwed. We had a little visit with the Leafs getting screwed now, and yes, it looks like and sounds like I'm with everybody who doesn't like what I'm saying. It sounds like homerism at its best. But I wish when you think about what was said here, looking back to the 5-10 minutes that we spent talking about this, that you check the facts that I've laid out for you. Check the facts that Aaron more or less spoke his opinion. I went out on a ledge. I went out on a ledge and spewed some facts. But I would be more than happy to be second guessed by people. And again, at the end of the day, another team would have yielded a Stanley Cup for the Toronto Maple Leafs only because if they wanted to fill the stadium, they would have to do something. They would have to accomplish something. And right now, the way the Leafs have been the last 60 years, they've had a market cornered that overflows with prospective customers who beg for the opportunity to end up in the hallowed building, to be seen on local television in the stands, cheering for their blue and white.
Look, I'll be honest with you. I have friends that have season tickets, and I'm hard pressed to even admit when they contact me that I'd probably rather not go to a game. But seeing as I don't have to spend the equivalent of a mortgage payment myself, I'll go with you, bud. But I'm not necessarily sure I'm going to enjoy it. You know what I mean? It's getting harder and harder.
All the jokes are going to start coming, Aaron. All the jokes are going to start
that's fine.
Coming. All the jokes are going to the Maple laughs. The one about I left two hockey tickets on my dashboard. When I got back, I found 4. Yeah,
you know what? I've been hearing a whole bunch of 6-7 a lot lately. Whole bunch
there
of
6-7. 6-7. Oh, shit. 6-7's a big number.
Yeah. It's mid and it ties into a rather embarrassing.
And Leonard DiCaprio. Then there's the Leonard DiCaprio one. When in a hockey game are the Leafs in trouble? When they hit the ice.
Yeah. It's honestly, it's been harder and harder to watch these guys play too. I am waiting for regional blackout restrictions to be lifted so I can watch some other godforsaken team as opposed to this one. And, you're talking to a guy that grew up during the Walt Podubny, Peter Inachak, Dandau, Bill Berg era. You talk about hard to watch hockey. Dude, I grew up during the original era of hard to watch hockey.
Wired hair coach Brophy. Wasn't Brophy the coach of one of those teams? Wasn't that also the coach around that time? Yeah, the problem with being a Leaf fan right now is that for the last 60 years, they've been a team, and this is the part that I guess hurts more than anything, is that they've been a team, and I'm just reestablishing the same point over again, but in a different way. This has been a team that has floundered under Ballard. It had very limited success. The most success they had was they went and they beat the New York Islanders before they won their first Stanley Cup. They beat them in 7. Lanny McDonald got that goal. You probably weren't around then, but you'll know the history anyway, but you know the history, right?
Yeah.
So that was one of the greatest moments. Roger Nielsen, the coach, Darryl Sittler, one of the best players that's ever worn the Maple Leaf, that was a great player for a year or two. His star rose for a while. It might have lasted longer if he'd had more better players around him, if he'd had an owner that built the team rather than destroyed it. So my point is that the Leafs, for the most part, since '67, since Harold Ballard ended up with the team, since Harold Ballard sold all the minor league teams that helped support the franchise in Toronto, and wouldn't sign the best players the Leafs had, let them go to the WHA. From that moment, the Leafs floundered with very few moments of peaking good news. This time was different. They had the best player in the world.
I used to think nothing could compare to Ballard trying to get Roger Neilson to wear a paper bag. But apparently I'm mistaken. Now that happened when I was 4 years old, so I do remember the controversy surrounding it and reading it in the newspaper. But
he refused to wear the bag, but
yeah,
he did come out late.
Yep,
just before the national anthem. Yeah. So, Leaf fans, here's all I can say to Leaf fans is look, you've gotta find something else to believe in. You got to find something else to believe in. This team can't be believed in. This organization is incapable. They frittered away the best chance any team can have to win a championship. I don't know if they were overrated, if Marner, Nylander, and Matthews were overrated and the money that they paid them wasn't really deserved, which I think is true. Or they deserved the money they got and they just didn't understand what it took to win a championship, and they tied the hands of the organization by forcing them to accept contracts that guaranteed they wouldn't win a Stanley Cup championships, ships or ship. And what we do know, recent past before them, is a lot of the players who made a lot of big bucks on championship teams first won a championship. Then they got paid. That didn't happen here. They got paid first, which is always what I said. So there was no money to actually win. There was only money to reward them for great play that they never did.
That's too bad. And we've talked about this so frequently in the past, Frank, too, about getting paid before you've actually earned it.
Yep.
Talking about getting through your RFA bridge deals for 3 to 5 years before you're getting your big UFA payday still holds true. The core four essentially hog-tied the Maple Leafs and made it impossible for them to actually build a championship winning team because everything was so front-loaded.
What would this team have looked like with a Hyman on the team? What would this team have looked like? Well, look at all the players that left. Nazem Kadri. Now, Kadri is that's a different kettle of fish. That was the Leafs giving into the league because they felt that Kadri, no matter what he did, he was going to get extra punishment. So they got rid of him because he was a problem for the team. They couldn't depend on him because he was getting suspended on a regular basis. What could have been? I say this again. I repeat, Leaf fans, find something else to believe in. There's plenty to believe in, folks. It isn't this team. It isn't this organization. They don't deserve your adulation. They deserve you watching them. And, do we believe that they have the capability of winning? I'm going to use an old Iran term, which was, if you remember when the nuclear thing, and the term that came up was trust and verify. I think it's time for Leaf fans to verify. Trust, you can have all the trust you want, but Maple Leaf organization, MLSE, you're going to have to verify that you deserve that trust because you haven't this whole time that you've owned the team. And you have no excuses because there was a 10-year stretch here where you should have been able to win one cup in the 10 years. But unfortunately, as I like to say, they bet on the wrong horses. The core four, they kept trying to bring these guys in that were going to provide the character that was lacking, that they admitted was lacking, which is why they brought these guys in with character. The problem was the core four didn't have the character to do it, to get past them.
And I think the problem is you can't teach that.
No.
If a player doesn't already have that heart baked into his system before he gets to you, he's not going to learn it.
They didn't. They should have, like back then, what I said and what I still believe in, they still have to do it now. They don't have the same kind of assets they used to have. At least people don't think they do, right? The perception of assets has shrunk more than Marner going, because Nylander's not a big asset right now. Neither is Matthews. Neither is Tavares. They needed to trade for a big defenseman, a guy that can stir the drink, and they refused to do it. They needed to do it. They thought Riley was the guy. Well, we all know how that turned out. So enough about the criticism of them. Talk to me about Robertson.
Well, he did get his 23rd goal, and that's the other Robinson. Turned everything on its head. Ottinger got a 16th win as the Stars beat the Leafs 5-1. That was, I think, the game where a lot of people thought the Leafs had basically folded tents and thrown in the towel.
Absolutely. Okay, getting ugly as zeros abound in wins.
Far too many zeros. Matthews has been a -11, I think, in his past 7 games. It's been absolutely horrifying to see. And getting on to point number 4, their decision to try to shift to balanced out power play units hasn't really been working. They went 0 against Dallas, if I recall correctly. You know, you're putting together elite units here of guys that should be absolute murderers on the power play, and you're getting nothing. So I don't know what the path forward is for them here.
Well, for me, the path forward is, if you noticed, in that game that they lost because of the late goals, the line that brought them back, the goal that McMahon. Sorry, I'm having a brain cramp. The goal that he scored, his line scored. Instead of bringing them out again, they brought up the number 1 line again that couldn't do anything. That was a bad coaching move. Should have put the guys that were hot out there, and instead of losing, 5-3, they would have lost maybe, but maybe not, because they were only a goal behind, and that line was so. You know, everyone's talking about coaching and is it any good? And have they lost? Has the coaching staff lost the room? I have to say, from the very beginning of this year, I've been unhappy with the coaching. For me, you remember the part I didn't like was the line changes.
Yep.
And how long players were on the ice. I found that was anti-ethical when it comes to coaching. Like that staying on the ice longer than you should, that's like thumbing your nose at the coach.
Yeah, no, I mean those extra long line changes are beer league reminiscent, because it's those guys that want all the ice time that don't want to get off. And it's guys like me who know they're a little short on wins, who do make their shifts short, end up getting shortchanged because people don't want to get off the ice. That's got to change.
It doesn't build team chemistry for sure. Okay, last word on the Leafs is to you.
Put it this way, they're a tire fire right now. They need to be stomped out in the politest way possible by hundreds and thousands of boots stampeding for the exits and leaving the seats at the Air Canada Center. Sorry, Scotiabank Arena empty.
Bring back that COVID atmosphere.
It might be the only thing that works.
Well, like I said, the only thing they've got going for them, if Nylander and Matthews have pride. And by pride, I mean, hey, look, if they don't want me here, get rid of me. Trade me wherever you want. I don't want to be here. And I don't blame the Leaf fans for turning on them. $13.5 million, $11.5 million. These guys aren't playing to their contract. And that's on them, on no one else, because nobody forced them to take that money. They demanded it. They demanded that money. Nobody forced the organization to give it to them either. I'm not letting them off the hook, but there it is. Okay, let's talk about the Raptors and Peyton Pritchard for the Celtics helped bury the Raptors once again.
Yeah, dude went absolutely off for 33 points and 10 assists. This was the second leg of a back-to-back on Saturday. The first leg for Toronto, they ended up beating the Raptors 112-96. Boston is now 17-11 on the season and are back in third place. Jaylen Brown was out, but Peyton Pritchard more than made up for it. Unfortunately, the Raptors looked really, really flat. Now they're going to have to do something about the fact that Scotty Barnes looks absolutely human again. He's showing massive defensive gaps. This carried over into their next game on Sunday, where the Raps fell to the abysmal Nets 96-81 in a game that they should not have lost by 15.
Yeah.
Just terrible. Michael Porter Jr. led the way for 9 on 18 shooting, plus 11 rebounds and 5 assists. Brandon Ingram had 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists for the Raptors, but it wasn't nearly enough.
Absolutely. Let's go to the Canadian Football League. The Bombers announced the coaching staff changes.
Yep.
Complete with.
So Tommy Condell has been named the Bombers' new offensive coordinator, and Jake Thomas will be transitioning from playing career to defensive line coach, he's actually replacing Darnell Patterson, who's going to be retiring. Jason Hogan is going to be coming back in 26 as a club's running back coach. It was a role he previously had between 2024 and 2024. So Condell is going to be joining the Bombers after spending the last 2 years as the offensive coordinator with the Red Blacks. He's got 15 years of experience in the CFL. We'll see if they can revamp and maybe take advantage of some new blood and new ideas to get back to where they were.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Lions, and they picked up a pretty good player in Darnell Sankey.
Yeah, a couple big signings for them. So they picked up Darnell, who was released by Montreal in December and was listed as number 9 on the CFL's top 30 pending free agents. He moves to the West Coast after 3 seasons with the Owls, where he registered 239 defensive tackles, 4 sacks, a pair of INTs, and 5 forced fumbles. So good addition for them. Not only that, they've extended their national offensive lineman, Michael Couture. Mike was a big part of their offense this past season. He offered a really calming presence on the defensive line. At 6'4", 302, he managed to start 12 regular season games at center, plus 2 more in the Grey Cup playoffs in 2025.
Absolutely. And you got to like the Habs. And not
Most
like
definitely.
They had 2 games against Pittsburgh. They lost one in overtime. They won the first one regulation 4-0.
Yeah, back-to-back with travel. So Jacob Fowler made 31 saves in his 4th NHL start for his first career shutout. On the back end of that, Crosby broke Lemieux's scoring record, and they beat the Habs 4-3 in a shootout to end an 8-game losing skid. Almost getting confused with the Leafs there, thinking it's a 4-gamer.
Oh, it's all good, buddy. It's all good. How about those Sens? We got a couple of good Canadian teams. The Western Division Oilers are coming back, but we'll talk about them in a minute.
Yeah, Batherson and Claude Giroux each had a goal in the first period when the Sens opened up a 3-0 lead. Fabian Zetterlund had 2. Tim Stutzla and Dylan Cousins scored 19 seconds apart in the second period. And they sent their former teammate packing on the other end. Not a good night for the Sabres in the slightest. For the Bruins in the slightest. Glad to see the Sens are picking it up and doing a little bit better.
Good. They're picking it up and putting it down. They're doing both. Let's talk about the Jets, who are just unbelievably playing poorly. They even brought their goaltender back. He's back. Their number 1 goaltender, their MVP. And wow, where are they at right now, Aaron?
It took all of 13 seconds for Clayton Keller to score in overtime for the 4-3 win for the Mammoth against the Jets on Sunday. Lawson Krause, J.J. Peterka, and Maple Leafs legend Alex Kerfoot also scored for Utah. Karl Vejmelka had 22 saves. Kyle Connor had 2 goals, and Morgan Barron also scored for Winnipeg, who lost their 4th straight. They're now 0-2-2 and have just 3 wins in their last 16 games. This is a horrific stretch for the Jets.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Flames.
Backlund got 2. spurred the Calgary Flames on to a 6-3 win over the visiting Vegas Golden Knights on Saturday. Joel Farabee had a shorty. Ryan Lomberg, Klapka, and Hubert with an empty netter also scored for the Flames. The Flames are now 15-17-4. They're 7-1-1 in their last 9 games at the Saddle Dome. Connor Zary and Mackenzie Weegar each had 3 assists. Goal and Devin Cooley made 34 saves for the win.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Oilers. I hinted at them, and McDavid's looking good. The cream does rise to the top, my friend.
I was going to say the misery seems to be continuing on this Western swing for the Golden Knights. Connor McDavid opened the scoring midway through this first period and set up Nugent Hopkins 2 power play goals as they won 4-3 on Sunday. The other Connor Ingram, had 26 saves in his Edmonton debut. This is actually his first NHL game of the season after they picked him up off Utah on waivers. Zach Hyman also scored and had an assist. This is coming off a 5-2 loss to Minnesota on Saturday. They jumped out to a 4-0 lead in the second period against Carter Hart. Leon Draisaitl had 2 assists. It looked like they were home safe, but the wheels kind of fell off in the third period, but they managed to hold on.
Absolutely. Really good deal for them. Let's talk about the Canucks.
So Ogren, Lankinen, and Carlson helped the Canucks push their win streak to 4 games with a 5-4 shootout victory over the Bruins. Liam Ogren was the hero. He also scored and added an assist in regulation, so that was a big game for him. Linus Karlsson had 2. Max Sasson scored the Canucks' first goal of the game, so that was a bit of a relief. Vancouver's been a little bit up and down, but they've had a little bit of a stabilization as of late. Glad to see that. Marco Rossi also recorded his first points with the Canucks, and Linus Karlsson actually had his first career 3-point game.
Good for him. In closing, go Leafs, go! Go! The new saying's going to be go Leafs went.
Sir, you may not be wrong.
Hey, you know what? If you're a Leaf fan, just try to enjoy the game as much as you can. As I said, the best you can do for yourself is lower your expectations when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And not because I'm telling you, but because that's what the team is giving you. So, Steve Dangle, piece of advice for you. Keep trucking on. Keep trucking on. That's all I can say. Keep trucking on. Aaron, have a great week at work. We'll see everybody again on Hump Day.
Excellent. Thanks a lot for that, Frank.
For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Sanishi. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your presence, folks. Talking about the Maple Leafs, a lot of people don't want